Emma sat alone in the dimly lit living room. The only sound was the low hum of the refrigerator. She glanced at the clock. 2 a.m. Jack still wasn't home. Her mind raced. Was he avoiding her? Did he even care? Earlier that evening, they had argued again. Same problem, different day. Emma craved connection, but Jack seemed distant, emotionally unavailable. But what if their struggles weren't just about love? What if hidden psychological forces were shaping their marriage without them even realizing it? Why does one partner crave closeness while the other pulls away? Is it just personality? Or is something deeper at play? And most importantly, can these patterns be changed? If you've ever felt stuck in an emotional push and pull in your relationship, you're not alone. Today, we'll uncover the hidden power of attachment styles, the silent forces shaping your love life. By the end of this video, you'll understand why you love the way you do and how to break unhealthy patterns. So, stay with us till the end, because what you learn today could save your relationship. Before we talk about the fight itself, let's look at what's really happening beneath the surface. This isn't just about a missed dinner or a late night at work. It's about something much deeper, something neither Emma nor Jack fully understands. Emma isn't just upset about Jack skipping dinner. She's afraid that he's pulling away, that she's not enough, that he doesn't love her the way she loves him. She needs reassurance, closeness, and constant connection to feel secure. But the more she reaches for Jack, the more distant he becomes. And Jack? He sees things differently. To him, Emma's constant need for validation feels suffocating. He doesn't understand why she reacts so strongly when he just wants some space. In his mind, everything is fine, as long as they don't talk about emotions too much. This pattern isn't random. It's driven by attachment styles, psychological blueprints formed in childhood that dictate how we connect with others. Emma has an anxious attachment style. She craves deep emotional intimacy and worries about being abandoned. When she senses distance, even the smallest sign, her mind spirals into worst-case scenarios. And that's just one side of the story. Jack's behavior is also shaped by something equally powerful. Jack wasn't trying to hurt Emma. He wasn't ignoring her to be cruel. In his mind, he was just being himself, someone who needed space, someone who didn't like feeling pressured. Growing up, Jack learned that emotions were best kept at a distance. His parents weren't unkind, but they weren't exactly warm either. Love in his house meant self-reliance, not deep conversations or constant reassurance. So he adapted. He became independent, logical, and self-sufficient. Now, as an adult, that same instinct kicked in whenever Emma got too close. When she texted too much, when she asked too many questions, when she wanted to talk about feelings, Jack felt trapped. His gut reaction? Pull away. But here's where things got worse. The more he withdrew, the more anxious Emma became. And the more anxious Emma became, the more she chased him, texting, calling, trying to bring him back. It was a cycle they didn't even realize they were trapped in. Emma was afraid of losing Jack, so she held on tighter. Jack was afraid of being overwhelmed, so he pushed away harder. Each of them feeling misunderstood, each of them feeling alone. And without knowing it, they were repeating patterns they had learned long before they ever met. Emma didn't just wake up one day and decide she needed constant reassurance. This fear, the deep, unshakable feeling that love could disappear at any moment, had been with her since childhood. Growing up, Emma's world was unpredictable. Some days her parents were warm, loving, and present. Other days they were distant, distracted, or even cold. She never knew which version of them she would get. As a little girl, she learned to pay attention to the smallest signs: a change in tone, a shift in expression, a delayed response. Anything that might mean love was slipping away. She became hyper-aware, always scanning for reassurance, always trying to hold on before it was too late. This didn't just shape her childhood, it followed her into every relationship she had. When Jack seemed distant, when he didn't text back fast enough, when he pulled away, it triggered something deep inside her. It wasn't just about Jack. It was about every moment in her past where love felt uncertain. So she did what she had always done. She held on tighter. She asked more questions, sought more reassurance, tried harder to close the gap before it widened. But Jack had his own past, and his response to Emma's closeness wasn't just about her. It was about the walls he had learned to build long ago. Jack didn't pull away because he didn't love Emma. He pulled away because, for as long as he could remember, that's what he was taught to do. In Jack's house, emotions were a private matter, if they were acknowledged at all. His parents weren't the type to offer comforting words or warm hugs after a tough day. Instead, they believed in strength, discipline, and self-reliance. When Jack got upset as a child, he was met with phrases like, "Toughen up," "Crying won't fix anything," "Figure it out on your own." Over time, he did just that. He learned to keep his feelings to himself, not because he didn't have them, but because expressing them never felt safe. By the time he reached adulthood, emotional distance was second nature. When things got tense, he withdrew. When conversations got too deep, he shut down. When Emma needed reassurance, he didn't know how to give it, not because he didn't care, but because caring had never been something he was taught to show. So when Emma pushed for more closeness, his instincts kicked in. His walls went up. He needed space, not to punish her, but to protect himself. But in doing so, he unknowingly triggered the very fear Emma had been running from her whole life. That night, Emma sat on the edge of their bed, eyes red from crying. Jack stood by the window, arms crossed, staring out into the dark. Neither of them spoke. The argument had drained them both. Finally, Emma broke the silence. "We can't keep doing this, Jack. I love you, but I can't keep feeling like I'm chasing you." Jack sighed, rubbing his temples. He wanted to say something, to fix it, but he didn't know how. He wasn't even sure what was broken. Then Emma said the words that made his stomach tighten. "I think we need therapy." Jack hesitated. Therapy. The word itself felt foreign, uncomfortable. Growing up, he had been taught to handle problems on his own. Talking to a stranger about their marriage, it felt like admitting failure. But deep down, he knew Emma was right. They were stuck in a cycle, and no matter how much they loved each other, they couldn't seem to break it. So, reluctantly, he agreed. The first session was awkward. Jack kept his answers short. Emma did most of the talking, but then the therapist introduced them to something neither of them had ever heard before: attachment styles. As they listened, something clicked. This wasn't just about personality differences or miscommunication. It was about patterns, deep, unconscious patterns formed long before they had ever met. For the first time, they weren't just reacting to each other's behavior. They were beginning to understand why they did what they did. And that realization changed everything. Change didn't happen overnight. At first, it felt unnatural, like trying to rewire instincts they had followed their entire lives. But with guidance, patience, and effort, Emma and Jack slowly began to shift their patterns. For Emma, the hardest part was letting go of the fear. Every time Jack needed space, her mind still whispered old warnings. "He's pulling away. Something's wrong. You need to fix this." But now, she had tools to fight those thoughts. She learned to self-soothe, to remind herself that Jack's distance wasn't a sign of rejection. She started expressing her needs in a way that didn't come from panic, but from clarity. Instead of saying, "Why don't you love me?" she practiced saying, "I feel disconnected. Can we spend some time together?" For Jack, the challenge was leaning in instead of shutting down. When Emma reached for reassurance, his first instinct was still to retreat. But he began to recognize that avoiding emotions didn't protect him. It only pushed Emma further away. So he practiced staying present. He started responding to her texts instead of ignoring them. He learned that opening up, saying, "I had a tough day at work," instead of just shrugging it off, didn't make him weak. It made Emma feel safe. It wasn't about changing who they were. It was about understanding each other differently. Over time, their marriage shifted from a battlefield of unmet needs to something they had never truly experienced before, a partnership built on trust, security, and love. And for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt alone. Emma and Jack's story isn't unique. Whether we realize it or not, our attachment styles shape the way we love, fight, and connect. The patterns we carry from childhood can either trap us in cycles of frustration or, with awareness, lead us toward deeper, healthier relationships. So ask yourself, what's your attachment style? Are you anxious, constantly seeking reassurance? Avoidant, keeping emotions at a distance? Or secure, able to navigate love with balance and trust? Understanding this can be the first step in breaking free from old patterns. Talk to your partner. Share what you've learned. When both people understand what's happening beneath the surface, real change becomes possible. And if you need guidance, don't hesitate to seek support. Therapy isn't a sign of weakness. It's a tool for growth. The good news, attachment styles aren't set in stone. With effort and understanding, anyone can move toward a more secure, fulfilling relationship. If this video helped you gain insight, give it a like and subscribe to our channel, Neuro Vista. We dive deep into the psychology of love, the mind, and human behavior, helping you build stronger connections, one insight at a time. Thanks for watching.